Technical difficulty.
Good. They good? All right, I'd like to call to order the April 21st, 2025 work session at 6:36 PM. Today, we are going to review the annual town meeting. Assistant to City Manager, City Planner NJ Johnson, the lead.
Thanks, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Council. So we wanted to just kind of do a touch base on the annual town meeting that we had on April 5th a couple weeks ago. We do the annual town meeting every single year. This one was the 10th annual town meeting, so kind of a momentous one. And just given that, and we've also, I'm going to go over some data of the last couple years on attendance, and it's generally declining. And so kind of wanted to check in. What is this event? What's the purpose? What can we do to make it better? How can it meet the needs that we all set tonight and going forward? So some recent numbers, I've been helping out with the annual town meeting since 2022, and that's also kind of a good benchmark since it's pretty much our post-COVID era. So 2022 was a big one. We had 225 people show up-ish. Again, kind of right after the Omicron variant, the mask mandate had dropped in Oregon at the time, and we were really ramping up the public involvement for the 50-year plan at the time. And the 50-year plan was this huge thing. I mean, no other city in the U.S. the size of Scappoose could we find doing something like that kind of long-term vision. So that was a really big deal that got people excited. 2023, we had about 150. That one was really centered around the Parks Master Plan. It had sort of a side activity, a lot like the 50-year plan, but not as well attended, just like the general event. 2024, we just didn't have a lot of major public-facing projects at the time. We had 125 attend, though. And then last year, to my count, or excuse me, this year, to my count, we had about 75 people show up. So with general attendance numbers, we need to kind of figure out like what can make people what can make people think that this is worth their time? Because clearly there was, an appetite to attend something like this. And so, if we can engage folks in the right way and offer the right kind of activities and possibly do better marketing and make it more convenient for people to attend, those are things that we want to look at and talk about tonight. So I also included in here, we at our department head meetings, we went around the table and just figured out what are some lessons learned, what are some things that we're looking at in the future, some things just that we heard at the event as well. One of them was potentially having department heads provide the report outs up at the State of the City event instead of the mayor. Definitely better marketing, way more in advance, at least just get it on people's calendars and then ramp it up as it gets closer. Looking at time, maybe earlier winter where there's just less going on outside. The event is generally pretty rainy, but if you remember, it was a really nice day on April 5th. And April's a time when it just gets really hard to avoid other stuff going on around the county and the Portland area. One of our staff members mentioned possibly doing a weeknight instead of a Saturday morning. Saturday morning kind of eats up a whole part of your weekend, whereas weekend night or weekday night, you've already had work in school. So potentially more able to bring your kids there too. More agencies like the fire, the PUD, and the school district. Potentially looking at the cafeteria as a tabling area, so it can be a little more equal opportunity of who can be seen among the community groups tabling. Potentially cafeteria for the State of the City address. Potentially moving to the middle school to just whatever our attendance numbers are, make it look like a more packed house. Having city tables to have better display, more interactive exhibits. Something we looked a lot into is trying to think about how can we make this something that people feel like they could bring their kids to as well. So looking into that, let's see. We had mentioned the idea of having a raffle for attendance, potentially with 1 free month of city utilities to get people incentivized, or some other kind of prize like that. involve the high school in some way, potentially choir sing the national anthem, have art exhibits, just anything to get them more involved. Activity-based bingo cards, so you go around and have conversations with other community members, and then a very critical note on less hot chocolate.
I enjoyed it later.
So, yeah, and you also saw in the staff report listed out some questions that can kind of get discussion started here. But in general, I think we need to start with what specifically, beyond community engagement or getting feedback, but what specifically are we looking for in this event?
My first question is, do we want to have this event? I mean,
Yeah.
do we want to have it? And then we'll find what we're going to talk about and how many people we want and where it's going to be and all that. But
Sure.
do we feel that this is a good event to have this year, or at least next year? I do. I mean, I think we can still do it and come up with some goals of how many people we want. What do we want to talk about? Where do we have it? I think if we put a little committee or work together, I think we can come up with something more and better than we definitely had this year.
Is having this required in our charter?
Nope, not at all.
First of all, I think, Kim, you were at the first one in 2015. At school. You weren't? I thought you were. And it was packed, and that had a nice feeling to it, having a crowd. However, I do like the high school venue, simply the auditorium for the speaking engagement.
Yeah.
This to me would be ideal for a school council to take on. So it sounds like the school district is game for a school council. I haven't interacted with the principal or the athletic director yet. It sounds like they're interested. I know the school board's interested. So this would be an ideal thing for the school council to do it. They would take the onus off of staff. We would save staff time there. You'd obviously need some guidance. Happy Valley does this. Happy Valley School Council does their annual town meeting with the council's cooperation. So I think that would be something really worthwhile exploring. And that would also amp the attendance. You have the kids involved with it.
Right, you're referring to a youth council, right? The school
Youth council,
kids,
yeah.
yeah.
And maybe the first year it's a joint venture. We work with them, showing them and kind of work
Absolutely,
together.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree, and maybe something with the council that would be very interesting. I really like some of the ideas that the staff came up with. I think that having it probably on the weeknight would be best. I think that Saturday can, there's other things, events that are happening, especially when the weather starts getting nice. People don't want to be in an auditorium for hours. I think having an agenda or things that we mention, not just a general town meeting, but we're going to discuss, these 3 activities or these 3 projects or something like that, having some type of what are we going to, talk about at the town hall. I think that if the department heads do agree, maybe having them up there as a panel, maybe people can ask questions. I think if they get that interaction of the audience with the speaker, maybe you'll get more of the attendance. And I like the agency part of it, more agencies and all the fun activities, incentives that you guys mentioned. Those are great ideas.
Did speak with Senior Center and they were kind of bummed they weren't there. That's a great opportunity.
Yeah, so I think that our format and our structure could be improved. I think that it would be a lot more engaging for the public if we had each of the department heads get up and we could, even template out a PowerPoint presentation that has, a commonality for each department. But basically just the department head gets up, well, they can, first create a very straightforward bullet point PowerPoint presentation that basically explains what their department does, what their goals were for last year, what they actually accomplished last year, and then what their goals are for the present year. But I think that just more engagement, and I think it's also good for us long term for our citizens our community to actually see the different faces of different departments. I think it I think it resonates so that when we do have an ask, they're able to put, a face and real people to it. I think I think we really need to do that. And then I like Jeanette's idea of like a panel kind of at the end where we can actually take questions for maybe 30 minutes or whatever. We could, limit them in scope, or they could submit them in advance, and then, we could screen them to make sure that they're appropriate and on point. But I think there's some different interactive engagement that we could do at the end also. I do also like the bringing in, like the fire district and some other, basically anybody that provides a service to the Scappoose residents, I think should be invited, whether it be the PUD, fire district, library, whatever, they should all be invited. And we actually, I think, really need them there. As far as still thinking on like how to actually get interest, but I think that'd be more interesting once people get there. As far as marketing goes, I think that we should do 2 or 3 mailers leading up. They're not that expensive to do, especially with the population that we're trying to target to get to come. So I think that we should do mailers. Mailers are really successful. And the repeated messaging, so not just doing 1, but 2 or 3 is what really counts. We could do a billboard, and then we could do Facebook ads. I think those are all things that we could do. We can even do targeted YouTube ads too for our area as well. But there's definitely things that we can do to get more attendance.
Right. And one of those comments, if you're looking at what they gave us feedback for, it's actually fun to look through those, how they would like to receive information. Emails was a huge one too. More than social media or anything, was newsletters, so mailers and email.
Yeah, and we have like a public involvement, just people who want to be generally aware of city stuff. It has about 500-ish emails on there right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice too if each council member just got up and very briefly, just introduce themselves, how long they've been running, what they enjoy being on council. But I really think that our community needs to see a face behind all the things that we do. Because again, when we go to ask for things, there needs to be a personal component to it. They need to be able to put a face to things.
So with the question, follow up on that one, with your panel recommendation, what would you hope to see on that compared to what they're asking at your tables? How would that maybe look different so it's not just repeated information?
Yeah, so I think the tables could be a substitute for that too. Probably one or the other. The tables might be more engaging and more interactive than like a formal panel type thing.
Thing about, if you did it all at once, you won't have to answer the same question 5 times. Table, but you may not get that. I like having the panel, but I keep thinking we want to grow it. It sounds like we want it bigger. It sounds like the budget needs to be addressed because all those things could cost more money and time. You talk about a weeknight. You can't be on a weeknight for 4 hours. So if you're adding all this, gone from 3 to 4 hours potentially, and unless you restructure it to where here's a set time, this person talks, this talks. So I think there's a lot there. I do sounds like we're interested in it and want to do something. Would it help to have a work session or 2 designed to develop, or a small committee of two people and staff to try to develop one forward, how we want it to look and what we want to do? It's going to be hard to come up with it just in one night.
Sure.
But maybe just your goals, or send them to your goals and
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think tonight is definitely just the start of it. I mean, we're trying to do it like 11-ish months before the next one. And so, yeah, future work sessions, conversations in between. And if you think of something, just send it to me and Ben. And we're keeping a list of lessons learned and how to make improvements to this event.
Right. The biggest thing we're trying to accomplish right now is because it's fresh on our mind.
Yeah.
We're trying to do better at follow up and getting that feedback while it's fresh. So we're also going to be sending information out to the residents who didn't attend, in either on Facebook. We already have we send out in the newsletter. It'll be coming out in the newsletter with the QR code to give feedback, as well Facebook as well, right?
Yeah,
it's on there. So we are looking for them as well. Why didn't they attend? As well as to give them the opportunity to answer these other questions, which we got some really good feedback on. And then as it gets closer, we'll start having those meetings again. Okay, this is what we heard, the feedback we got from everybody. How do we implement some of that?
based on what we heard, here's where we want to go. How much time is that going to take? How many people are we going to get? Because if you bring in more and more agencies, it's less time to talk to each one of them.
Mhm.
And if you're in talking for 2 hours, because you're going through each department head and half-hour questions, you won't have time to walk around or do a project in the cafeteria where you want feedback. So, I think there is definitely a lot of.
Yeah, Joe, yeah, I think we kind of step back a little bit here. You know, from my experience, you know, working these events for 30-some years, you know, it's got to be fun and engaging. Okay, and so if you have it dull and boring with, you know, X, Y, and Z, and you try to cram things up on an evening, a night evening, you've got competition from all the school activities. The schools are an integral part of the community. Let's face it, but with the sports and the academics and all the different things, and if you don't include the schools in this process, you're missing the boat, because that's where your big pot of attendance is. And so I think, you know, just to step back and kind of before we got plenty of time to deal with this. And if indeed we do get a school council going, I think you will be impressed with the enthusiasm and energy that these kids bring. You know, these are the top echelon kids. And I think you'll find you'll be really impressed with that process. But they may not, they may bow out too. Who knows?
Quick question I have, just Marissa, I can't tell if your hand, being in your screen, if you ever have a question, let us know. I don't see a little hand anywhere, so I don't think you have anything now, but if you do, let us know.
To Counselor Haugen's point too, maybe we can get some of the students to put on some sort of activities, for lack of a better word, like childcare, you know, so that the kids are kept busy while the parents attend. So, you know, whether it be some sort of fun game or whatever, if we could have high school students kind of moderate or facilitate that with, you know, some defined parameters there. So we don't have crying kids coming into the main.
Turned into a
Yeah.
fundraiser.
Yeah, so if we could have like maybe 3 different activities that are kind of designed around different age groups, that might be an idea. Because of how we want to make this engaging and invite the other parties, the other community providers, I don't know that we'd be able to pull it off in an evening. I think perhaps we need to look at maybe a date change to, you know, a fall date or something, to where people want to be inside and not out in the rain. Our current dates are kind of, you know, on the cusp of nice weather. We never really know. So we probably don't want to do it in December, January because of the snow factor, but yeah.
We're wrapping up on time, and I'd like to get all of your feedback on this. And perhaps I'm missing a category here, but if you all could list your top priority between getting feedback from the community, educating the community on what's going on and what's coming up, and then having a fun and engaging, really big, like community, like everyone's involved kind of feel. What would you put as your top priority for this event going forward?
Out of those three, for me, it's a great, I think it's a great opportunity to interact and get feedback, but at the same time, it is educating, because we're getting educated from the community on what their needs are, and then they're getting communicate, you know, getting the education or what's going on with the city. Some don't come to city meetings, to council meetings, or they don't listen to the recordings. So this will be an opportunity for them to know what's going on, and like, you know, like we're saying, have a face, right, to the city. Also wanted to add that I'm not sure what the technology is at the middle school, but I really like the technology that it's at the high school, as far as recording and so forth, and people that may be not able to attend in person can still view the presentation. So
Yeah, I do like that. I mean, I do think my first is maybe getting information out to the public about what's been going on in the city, from infrastructure to policing to everything. But then being there to answer questions too, individually, being able to answer questions, and then having a topic. And I do want to talk about these some other time and go over some of these and address them, because there's things in there I like to maybe look at that we see over and over and over, themes. Like some topic. It might be other funding opportunities and how we're going to fund police department years, or how we fund something. I mean, come up with something important each year, get feedback. And then also really engage all of our partners, getting all of our nonprofits, everybody there together, is I think is really important.
So if I could get you all, like, what is your top one of the, because all of these will be a component of the event in some way. We'll try to make it fun and educational. What is your top priority for us to focus on
For
when we
me,
think about?
it's the directors having each one of the department heads stand up and explain what their department, I mean, it's literally like a 10 or 15-minute presentation. So what their department does, just high level, what the goals were last year for their department, what they were able to actually accomplish, department budget, and kind of explain. We should use that as an opportunity too, to educate on taxes and budget too. I mean, these are great opportunities, especially when we might be asking for money for, for police, to increase police or whatever. But these are excellent. It's an excellent opportunity for that. And hearing it from each department director. So I'm sorry, we're at end of time here, but mine is department directors, and then I'll leave it at that.
You see Marissa's is online.
Susan passed it to me,
Counselor
yeah.
Holmes?
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know. I would maybe suggest that those department head presentations are 7 minutes. Cut it down a little, just so we can get more. But I think it is important. I mean, people want to know where are the sidewalk infrastructure projects at? What's the big, thing happening up off Keys Landing? And the more that we can engage people with those projects, I think it's a benefit for everyone.
We could gather some questions ahead of time too, so they know what they want, community wants to hear when they get up.
Yeah, the fun and engaging is, to me, is the foundation. And then we want to convey the information of what the city is engaged in. But let's face reality, some people are better spokespersons than others. So I think Mayor Joe does a great job on doing that. I think MJ, you do a great job. Ben, you do a great job. So certain people have that skill set, and others are say what you want to do is have that public relations face. So if you think about that in the context of discussion.
Sure. Thank you.
Then do you have an idea going forward? I mean, is this something staff is going to really try to put together and come back with feedback and recommendations? Or do you want to put together a group eventually, talk about the main things like, yes, do we want to have it? When do we want it? Because if we're not going to do it till November, we have a year and a half.
Right.
Because we probably wouldn't do it this November. But
Mhm. It'd be a semi-annual town
find
meeting.
out when it. Then so. But then also I'd like to kind of address some of these too at sometime.
No, yeah, this will certainly be a continuing conversation. I asked that question at the end just to give me a little bit of a direction in terms of what at its core, what this event is supposed to be.
Well, strategically also, if we have something that's going to be a more significant ask coming up, we might want to think about even if we do have to do it early, waiting till November 26th for example, is a long time away.
Right, and we started asking, if you look at the feedback we got from them, there were several questions about parks and police and funding. And it was interesting to see the ones on parks said, specifically someone notated, not on your property tax, but as on your bill. I was like, I don't know who put that in there, but I was like, that was interesting to see that people already are paying attention to that type of detail of it. But all of them said yes, they'd be willing to. All of them said they'd be willing to support. And same thing as when they did the Parks Master Plan update. Yes, people are willing to support parks amenities, services, recreation. Seems like a lot of them are about community education classes. And same thing with the police department. So we're starting to get that fillers out because we know that there's going to be something that we have to resolve, obviously, with our goal too.
And if we had something big like that, we could use it as our breakout session. We could adjust the time. Maybe, hey, this year it's April. Maybe it's some other time because the Parks Master Plan is going to be getting done about that. I mean,
Right.
we can adjust it based on that big project if needed.
Yeah. But this is a great start, and yeah, appreciate all the direction, and we'll have more conversations like this.
Everybody's putting on their calendar right now. Okay, I got to be there next April 6th. That's,
Yeah. Thank you all.
thank you. Sure.